The name that's starting to ring out a little bit, and we talked about this yesterday, was Tyler Hughes, the wide receiver coach.
Yeah.
Something's off in the wide receiver room, if you hadn't noticed.
So let's blame the position coach.
So, again, I don't blame him. If they fired him at the end of the year, what do I care? Like, I barely even knew his name. So, like, I don't care. It's not like the wide receivers are good. It's not like I even knew much about him as a hire in the first place. So, if he's going to pay for it with his job at the end of the year, whatever.
Yeah, but then they just bring in somebody else like that.
But in the middle of the season, to be, like, throwing his name out there, that feels like people are now trying to point the finger at others out of self-preservation.
Yep.
Alex Van Pelt is like, yeah, the receivers stink, but what is this coach over
Well,
here?
it's one of those things. Well, if they go 2 or 3 wins,
or Mayo's doing it or something. Yeah.
and if I think Mayo's going to survive it because of Kraft, and I think Wolf would probably survive it just because of that job. A one-and-done GM is kind of crazy, right? And so I think the next obvious guy would be Alex Van Pelt, but let's say Drake Maye likes Alex Van Pelt. What if Drake Maye individually plays pretty well? Doesn't Van Pelt get some credit for that? And then you wouldn't want, or nobody would want 5 offensive coordinators in 5 years. So maybe they then say, all right, well, we got to get rid of somebody. We just won 3 games.
Right.
Oh, the wide receiver coach.
That's who it is.
And nobody would buy that. Nobody would be like, oh, okay, they mean business now. I mean, I would say the only exception would be Dante Scarnecchia as far as a position coach that you felt like really, really mattered. I'm sure they all have, a layer of importance.
Even him, they won a Super Bowl without Scarnecchia. People forget that.
No, that's true.
They won a Super Bowl without Scarnecchia in 2014.
But he was like the one guy that you would really feel like, all right, he can take a group of, C and D level players and get them to play like a B level player. Like he could do that. Everybody else, you're like, all right, they're there, but it's more important what the offensive coordinator thinks of the wide receivers than what the wide receiver coach is. Can anybody name all the wide receiver coaches from 01 to 18?
Here?
Yeah.
God, no.
Of course. It didn't really matter. Or the tight ends coaches or whatever else. Like, no, of course not. So the fact that this guy's name's getting tossed around there at the midway point is sort of like that. Okay, we're taking it seriously. We'll let somebody go.
No, people are fighting for their job already.
Yeah.
People on the coaching staff are fighting for their jobs. Maybe it's Mayo. Maybe it's Van Pelt. Could be Elliott Wolf. Guys, I mean, Covington's name got thrown out 2 weeks ago, going into the Jets' loss, coming out of the Jaguars game. Covington's name was thrown out. The latest one is the wide receivers coach. So just know there's a lot of finger pointing, and people are trying to protect their job already on this coaching staff because they know where it's going. So that's the backdrop for the trade deadline yesterday, Keith. They do nothing. I told you I'd be annoyed by doing nothing. Like, just do something. Make a trade.
They did nothing.
To subtract from the roster, make a trade to add to the roster, do something. It's your job. Your roster's horrible. This is a day to get it done. Other teams got stuff done. You did not. So I'm frustrated by that. I'm annoyed by it. I wouldn't say I'm surprised.
No.
But how do you feel with the trade deadline passing? Missed opportunity?
I thought just to clear up, guys. I wasn't saying they needed to buy or get anybody. I think they need to be more all hands on deck in the offseason. Use all of your picks, all of your money, all of that in the offseason. But I did think it was a good opportunity to spin a couple of guys, maybe move up in the draft. I don't think you had anybody that you really wanted to part with that was going to get you anything of value. But could you have traded KJ Osborne and Tyquan Thornton, for a 6th-round pick and you throw in your 7th? So you move up a few spots. But more importantly, just get those guys off the team. Focus on the 5 receivers that you have, the 5 guys that you want to develop. Maybe 1 or 2 of them sticks and is a part of Drake Maye's future. Just keeping everybody on the team, it made no sense to me. So I wasn't that upset though that they didn't get anybody.
Okay, so I was frustrated by that, but I'm with you. They at least should have subtracted from the wide receiver room Thornton, KJ Osborne. I would cut either of them today. Like, they don't need to be on the team. And you're probably right. There's very little value in those guys. What were you really getting back? It was more about subtracting. How about this from my girl Josina Anderson?
All right.
Couldn't read the tweet, so I had to read it from my guy, Savage Sports.
She blocked you pretty hard.
As for the Patriots, she apparently tweeted.
Yes.
It takes 2 sides to make a deal, and the Pats aren't going to give away players like Christian Gonzalez.
What?
Keon White.
All right.
Devon Godchow. Or Kyle Duggar, who teams have been asking for per source.
Wow. So teams are calling about Christian Gonzalez? I mean, I guess you might as well call on it, but, that'd be dumb if they traded Gonzalez.
I agree.
Those other guys?
Keon White, Godchow, Duggar. So when you say there aren't guys of value they could have moved, and the wide receiver room, I agree. Keon White gets you something. Godchow gets you something. Duggar gets you something.
What
Now,
does Godchild
what
get you?
I don't know.
Yeah.
5th or 6th? Is that too high?
So, okay, I think anything on the third day of the draft to me isn't really much, but sure, you could have gone after that. But would you rather have Godchow or would you rather have a future 6th? Like, I don't care. Like, and Godchow's not a guy I'm trying to get rid of either, or Duggar, and even Keon White. Like, I think you need to get him back on track. The first couple games of the season, he looked like one of your best players.
Yes.
And a guy that's going to be like a good pass rusher. He's also the guy that we think everybody is kind of sneaky calling out, being going in it for himself.
He still hasn't learned what a horse collar tackle is. He had another one this week. He still hasn't figured that out.
No, he hasn't.
Can't drag guys down by the horse collar.
Well, they're not going to take him out. They don't.
No.
It doesn't really matter.
No.
But yeah, no, that's funny that they get calls on all of those guys. But again, out of that group, the only one that I would laugh at would be Gonzalez. The other ones I would listen and be like, all right, what are you thinking and whatever. But I don't think it's like a net positive to see those guys go.
That's part of my frustration. Is it's like Elliot Wolf. Teams are calling you about all these guys, and you don't have to give them away. And maybe you just weren't getting a fair offer, and there's your answer. But there was interest in your roster, and you don't do anything.
Like, now that I got you on the phone, what about a Tyquan Thornton? I know you called about Christian Gonzalez, but what about a Tyquan?
Click.
He's fast.
Click.
Hello.
So that's a little frustrating to me. They were getting calls about, and I wouldn't deal Gonzalez either. I'd listen on anyone on this roster, but short of Drake Maye, I guess. I'd listen on Gonzalez. You want to get crazy and give me like 4 first-round picks for Gonzalez? Fine.
Well, yeah.
So I'll listen on anyone is my point.
Yeah.
But like, I'm not itching to give away Gonzalez. Maybe trade his future radio interview rights. Like, I'd do something like that.
No. He's
but
locked in Monday.
I'm not trying to trade him off the team. But some of those other players, they should be listening on and haggling over. I just feel like Elliot Wolf wasn't getting anything done. I know he didn't get anything done. I feel like he wasn't doing anything.
In that position, there's basically 3 opportunities to really improve your team, right? There's the free agency, there's the draft, and then there's the trade deadline.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the trade deadline is the least of those 3.
Yes.
But how do you think he's done in those 3?
Oh,
horrible.
Fail. FFF.
Right. So Drake Maye, we all like, but he gets 0 credit for it. You can't be a fail because they got Drake Maye.
You're right. That can't be a fail. What is his grade? What is his draft grade?
I mean, I would probably say like a C right now because you hit on Drake Maye, but it was obvious. It was like putting your name on the SAT. Like, you get points for that.
The one thing you give the organization credit for, I don't even know if you give Wolf credit for it, is they didn't trade back from 3.
But like Polk and Baker were 2 of your high picks.
Yeah, those are
horrible.
Not working out.
Horrible. And like maybe the lineman will be okay. I don't know. So I would say the draft has been the best of the 3. He then does nothing in free agency other than re-sign a lot of the guys that were on the team last year. And then trade deadline comes, and not that a lot of teams are really altering their rosters, but it is an opportunity to add or subtract. He flips Uche for a late pick next year. That's all. That's the only move he did in season. It's been bad. It's been really, really bad. And I think next year it's got to be how that one goes. Like, he could be a 2 and done. If he has another bad free agent class, you think 1 and done?
Well,
I don't.
If I was wagering on it, he's probably back next year, but I don't think he's like safe by any means.
No.
Like, he's like a lock to be back. I don't think he's a lock to be back.
Okay.
I'd probably bet on it.
Yeah.
But I make bets that lose all the time. I don't think he's a lock by any means to be back next year. Well, I don't think Mayo's a lock to be back.
It's so I still think he is, but I get where you're coming from. I just think that Robert Kraft, after 20 years of Bill Belichick, they then need to replace basically Bill Belichick with 2 people, and they went so far as to replace him with 2 guys that were working for him. Like, they didn't open up this big search for either one of those spots.
True.
He just went with the guy that he hired 5 years earlier in Gerard Mayo, and then Elliot Wolf, who was just sort of there, and then just promoted and finally got the job. Like, he didn't even have the title at the draft, did he? Remember? Like, it was like a whole weird thing.
No, he did not.
But he had been on the staff for a couple of years, and so it's not like Robert Kraft really started interviewing guys from all around the league for that spot.
I'm trying to find Florio. I don't know if you feel like
he tosses nonsense out there.
Worth checking into. But again, this aligns with the betting lines that you brought up last week, Keefe.
Yep.
He had the Patriots 30th. He asked the question, will Gerard Mayo be 1 and done? Florio.
Yeah.
So, like,
that's a good question.
Maybe he's just throwing stuff out. Yep. Maybe, I don't think Gerard Mayo's a lock to be back. I don't think Elliot Wolf is a lock to be back. And I will give you what I think is tangible evidence that people there are nervous. Covington's name getting thrown out 2 weeks ago. Tyler Hughes' name getting thrown out right now. People are pointing fingers. Could be Van Pelt. Could be beneath Mayo. Could be beneath Elliot Wolf. But to me, that's a sign that people in the organization are gonna pay for this disaster with their jobs.
Which
I
think will
one
happen,
building block. Yeah,
but I don't think it'll be Mayo. And I think to that point, so I think you could get into next year and Alex Van Pelt again. I think is going to be at the center of this, and it's going to be about how Drake Maye is playing. But Tyler Hughes, DeMarcus Covington, oh my God, I wouldn't bet on those guys coming back.
No, I
think Mayo does come back, but he only comes back if you claim to make all these other big changes. Which how big are they? Like the head coach is still here,
and on I feel like Van Pelt has gotten safer. Tell me if you agree with this. Week 1, and maybe you still think Van Pelt won't be back, but from week 1 until now, has Alex Van Pelt increased or decreased his likelihood of being back?
Increased.
I think so, too.
He has a much better chance of being back.
And so now it's like the guy who I think was ready to be the scapegoat looks a little safer, and someone's going to have to pay for it.
I mean, there's still 8 more games, and
there's a lot of the good news is there's a lot of options. Like if Kraft wants a scapegoat on the coaching staff or the front office, there's a lot of people he can choose from.
Plenty of guys. No, I know.
More than on the ballot yesterday. Yesterday you had
no, there was a pile of names on there. Like, who are these guys? I haven't seen their ads.
They could do you a favor and put the Republican and Democratic candidates, just group them at the top.
Yeah.
I don't need it to be alphabetical. Like I got a little thrown off, and I'm like, Jill Stein's up here?
I'm like, I guess I'll vote for Jill Stein.
She's pretty high up there. So, yeah, no, there
her level of commitment, though,
he's
is
got
unmatched.
more choices, I feel like, realistically, than the ballot yesterday.
Yeah.
To scapegoat somebody if he'd like.